must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us for our second show of the day. This is the People's Court, and on today's show we're going to look at, as I had told you earlier on there, the content of the BBI, not what the politicians are telling us, not some of the rumors that you're hearing from out there as to what is contained on the BBI, but rather we're going to look at, the shortened version. This one was made possible and made available to the public over a week ago there. I think President had given an instruction and they made it available, and it was available in two of the leading newspapers in Kenya, on the Standard newspaper and also on the Daily Nation sometimes back last week. And so we shall be taking us point by point. So today we've chosen to look at what is happening. We've chosen to look at a particular subject today on the BBI, and the first one is the validation statement. This section presents a summary of the validation outcomes for each of the 9 thematic areas. So the first point there is the national ethos, responsibilities and rights, and then the second one is ethnic antagonism and competition, and that is where we shall be laying our focus today, so that we get to understand what is it that this committee went around Kenyans and what Kenyans are saying about our national ethos and the responsibilities and rights of Kenyans in this country, and also the ethnic antagonism and competition that sometimes is the basis of our very divisive elections. And also still divisive elections is something that also has stands by itself. So we shall look at that as we continue. Thank you so much. So joining me to advance this conversation is Professor Jared Onyari. Professor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam, Daniel, and our viewers.
All right, thank you so much. And Daniel shall be joining us in a short bit, as well as Javen, all the way from Nanyuki. So, Professor, let's just start. Emmanuel, thank you for watching. Ibrima Kamara, you're saying you're watching us from the Gambia. Thank you so much. What's happening there? Yaya Jame was supposed to be coming back and answering to, these things that he's been accused of. Is there a possibility of him coming from Equatorial Guinea? I don't know, but thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate your presence this morning. And also, Vicky Blessed, you said you're watching from Texas there. Thank you so much for tuning in. So let's just get into it and understand. Under the national ethos and responsibilities and rights. Now, in the task force report, Kenyans decried the fact that Kenya lacked a sense of national ethos, is increasingly a nation of distinct individuals instead of an individually distinct nation. And we have placed too much emphasis on what the nation can do for each of us, our rights, and given almost no attention to what we each do for our nation. That is our responsibility. That is the first part there, the first stanza of the national ethos, responsibilities and rights. Professor, how would you respond to that?
Miriam, this is very, very important, because as a people and as a nation, Miriam, we don't have a culture which identifies us as Kenyans. You heard me say last time that when the governor for Machakos was the government spokesperson, he was promoting that najivunia kuwa Mkenya. I'm proud to be a Kenyan. But the people changed and started najihurumia kuwa Mkenya. Najihurumia kuwa Mkenya, because they have got issues where wanajihurumia kuwa Kenya. So, Miriam, we must be able to have a culture which as identifies us as a people. Miriam, when I grew up and I would enter a bus or a vehicle or a matatu and find an elderly person, Miriam, believe me or not, Miriam, I could stand. Thank God this generation whereby we have got we have got a number of seats that we don't have somebody who can sit. But Miriam, even when you go to developed countries, Miriam, when you enter first, there are some areas, seats designated for the physical challenged persons. And Miriam, you cannot sit there. The elderly are given a priority. Miriam, this is the kind of culture that we need to have, Miriam. And from where I sit, I always say that we need to be civil to each other. We must practice civility. We must be able to treat both young, old, and the young equally. Miriam, again, we have given a lot of rights to the Kenyan people, and they don't know what is their responsibilities. Miriam, through this BBI, Kenyans are now going to know, yes, these are your rights. In chapter 4 in the Bill of Rights, everybody keeps on talking, these are my rights, these are my rights. We want this one being done to us. And they don't know of the responsibilities. So through this national ethos, Miriam, we are going to see how do we even carry our marriages, how do we do things. So in this, Miriam, it is going to come out very clear so that we know very well on how we have to do it. And Miriam, to do with ethics, Miriam, sometimes I wonder why we need even to teach ethics. These are something, the basic things which are being thought at the family level. But be it as it may, because we have gone off the curve, Miriam, they are recommending that we should be able to start teaching these things and changing our curriculum so that our children can be taught when they are young. Because what the Catholic says, Miriam, you give them a child of 7 years and it goes through their teachings, Miriam, the child become a Catholic for life. Even the Muslims, Miriam, when these children are young, when they go to madrasas, they become Muslims for young. So this is something good, Miriam, if it will be introduced, our curriculum will be changed, Miriam, and the children will be taught on how they have to be patriotic, how they have to respect the elderly. Miriam, what is expecting from out of them? Miriam, to get it right on national ethos, we must go to the basics. And I'm happy that BBI is addressing it.
And you mentioned there, Professor, rightly mentioned that you wonder why they're even teaching national, not national ethics, but ethics, period, because this is supposed to be starting from the family level. That means we're having a problem here with the family unit, and maybe these are just some of the things that should be looked at, but on another level, maybe a church level, the elders and spiritual leaders and things like that. Perhaps we should see what went wrong and why is it. A lot of things which were considered very basic growing up, nobody told you this is how you're supposed to do or behave, but you knew that is exactly how you're supposed, and you didn't need anybody to tell you because you knew that is what the society and indeed your family, your parents expected you to behave and be. But that has changed. So that part of the introduction that I just read there, Professor, down there, the second part of that stanza, it says, and we have placed too much emphasis on what the nation can do for each of us, our rights, but given almost no attention to what we each must do for our nation, our responsibility. How does this even speak when it comes to patriotism? Because when growing up and the era of President Moi, I was there all through his 24 years, and Kenyans were quite, patriotic. I don't know if you were forced, to be, because even of the national holidays and how so much emphasis were put in that. Of course, a lot of songs praising Moi, but also a lot of songs that really, put the thing in us that it was important for us to be patriotic to our country and the loyalty pledge and all that. And so when Kenyans, according to this, we are so busy thinking of what can President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government do for me as a Kenyan, but we forget our part, that we also have a responsibility on what I should do to my nation as a Kenyan. So how can we have this conversation so that Kenyans can understand fully their responsibility to their nation as we look at matters patriotism?
Miriam, maybe before Professor comes in,
I just wanted to... All right, go ahead. Yes.
I just wanted to give a quick rejoinder on what the Professor said. And I think as a country, having national ethos and integrity, those are integral parts of leadership. raises the people's morale and confidence in the government of the day and also its governing structures. And I've read so much about Asia and more specifically about Singapore. And when the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, and his contemporaries were forming the state of Singapore in 1969, one of the basic things that they did, one of the core foundations that they built a nation on, was making sure that it was a nation built on national ethos. It was a nation built on a corruption-free society, a nation built on hard work and diligence among its citizenry. And therefore, even today, Miriam, I tell you, if you travel in Singapore and you are found chewing gum and then just throwing it on anywhere around the road, you'll be arrested and be charged quite heavily. So when they managed to change the behaviors of its citizens and made them very responsible citizens, then economic eminence was inevitable. And even its workforce, the trained young men and the society at large was able to be appealing to the investors who came to Singapore in search of setting up industries which would employ the workforce that was there. And that is how, from developing national ethos and some principles of leadership which ensured that there was no corruption, there was no laxity in terms of citizens in accomplishing their responsibilities, it ensured that Singapore grew to become what is called today as one of the Asian tigers, the fastest growing economies in the world. So what I would say from what they say from their side is that they were riding on the back of a tiger. And that is what we need here in Kenya. Perhaps our founding fathers had quite a good ambition of eradicating disease, ignorance, and poverty. But they never did a holistic job. And that is why we have BBI today. It goes back to do the things that perhaps we never did since independence. The topic of inclusion in leadership, the topic of equitable distribution of resources, the topic of the 2/3 gender rule, the topic of bringing more young people and women on the leadership table. Those are very integral for any progressive society. And I believe now Kenya, with the BBI report, will be able to walk the same path as the Asian tigers did. And with that, prosperity and progress will be achieved as a milestone from the BBI reports.
And Daniel, thank you so much. And we shall be looking at the other issues that have also been mentioned there, as you have mentioned there, and they're included in the BBI. But today specifically, we are going to look at the first and the second part, and that is the national ethos, responsibilities and rights, and then the second part, ethnic antagonism and competition. And we know these are very good, two very fertile recipes that actually lead to the divisive elections we see in this country. Because if I have ethos in me and some form of humanity, I will not kill you because you voted for the other person. So that part of us has been messed up, and the BBI is trying to take us back to the river and the source. I don't know if that even makes sense. But why is the second part there, Professor, that Kenyans, we've placed so much emphasis on what we can get from our country and from the government, and we don't even know that our country also needs our efforts, needs us to be there for it. Yeah.
John F. Kennedy, Miriam, had to tell the Americans, don't ask what America can do for you, what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? That is the responsibility, Miriam. Sometimes we keep on saying, oh, serikali saidia, serikali afanya nini, we want our national cake. Miriam, I have never seen this kind of conversation, Miriam. Who bakes this cake? Who are the bakers for this cake, Miriam? That is the responsibility, Miriam. It is our responsibility, Miriam, when you see children going wrong. It is your responsibility as an elder to tell this child you are not supposed to do this one. Miriam, hear this. You know very well people are not supposed to smoke in public.